Hi, this is Rhonda, and today I'm going to make chocolate chip cookies. Chocolate chip cookies are one of my favorites. I hope it's one of your favorites too. So I have preheated the oven to 375. So if you hear a beep, that means my oven is preheated. I'm going to adjust the camera so you can see what I'm doing. Okay. So get this in here. So I'm doubling the recipe today because I usually do that. So it originally called for 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour. So I'm going to do, when I add that together, that is 4 1/2 cups of all-purpose flour. Now when you're measuring flour, you want to level it off with your spatula or knife. So that's 1, 2, I'll move it so you can see it better, 3, 4. That's 4 cups, and I need 4 1/2 cups, and then I have my half. And I'm going to again level it off. So now I have my 4 1/2 cups of flour. Get that out of the way. And then the next ingredient is baking soda. And it's called for 1 teaspoon. So I'm going to put in 2 because I am doubling the batch. So I'm going to show you how I do this. So when you do baking soda, you got to reach in there with your spoon and then level it off. So that's 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons. Now when it comes to salt, I don't like things very salty, so you need a little bit of salt for the baking soda to actually work. But I'm just going to put in less amount of salt, just a little bit less, because I don't like things too salty. And I'm just going to, it calls for 1 teaspoon of salt, and I'm doing a double batch, so that'd be 2 teaspoons of salt. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, and I don't want to accidentally get too much salt in there, so I'm just going to put a little bit over here, because if you accidentally got too much salt in there, that would not be a good thing. So I'm going to kind of do like half the amount, but it does call for 2 teaspoons of salt. So I got that done. So we have, there we go. All right, so I'm going to take a fork and I'm just going to mix this up. So that's flour, baking soda, and salt. And I'm going to set that aside. And then the next thing I'm going to do is put in the softened butter, which I've left it on the counter for a while, and it calls for 1 cup, but I'm doubling it, so I'm going to put 2 cups in. So on the butter, 1 stick of butter is 1/2 cup. So 1/2 and 1/2, that's 1 cup. 2 more is 2 cups. I'm going to put that in. Make sure you get all the paper off. I'm double checking. Okay, so it's nice and soft now, just leaving it on the counter for a little while. So make it easier to mix. So I got that done. I'm just going to set that aside. And now I'm going to do the sugar. I'm wiping the butter off of my hands. If you wonder why it disappeared for a second. So there we go. Okay, so now for the sugar. Okay, for the sugar, we have 3/4 cups of sugar. and 3/4 cups of sugar because I'm doubling it. So it's 1.5 cups of sugar. So I will go ahead and do 1.5 cups of sugar because I'm doubling it. There's my stove. Okay, so sugar also, you just go ahead and level it off. White sugar levels off, so 1.5 cups. Set that aside, and now the same amount, 1.5 cups of brown sugar. Now brown sugar you measure differently. I'll take this out of here. You can see better what I'm doing here. So when you're measuring brown sugar, the best thing to do, I think I'm going to, next time possibly, I got some new containers, I'm going to transfer the brown sugar into a container that's easier to get into. Okay, so you got to go ahead and you got to pack your brown sugar. So I'm packing it. Okay, so the best way to describe this is when you were a little kid and you played in the sandbox and you were going to make a castle and you had to pack that sand. Same idea. You got to pack that brown sugar. Pack it hard. So that's 1 cup. Then I'm going to break it up in here because it's going to get broken up eventually. Sometimes the brown sugar is a little hard. So, okay, then I'm going to go and do the same thing with the half. I'm going to scoop, scoop, pack, scoop, and pack. There's no air holes. Make sure it's level, but I'm packing it in hard. Okay, so we have the regular, the white sugar, the brown sugar, and now the next thing is vanilla and 2 eggs. I'm going to move some of this stuff aside, get out the eggs. I'm going to set this aside, and then I got to do 4 eggs. Okay, I'm going to take a little piece of paper towel and break the eggs. Whoop, I'm out of there. Now you can see. Okay. See if I can possibly break these without getting shell in. That would be awesome, but I don't know if it's going to happen because I usually get at least 1 piece of shell. There's a tiny piece of shell in here, which I will use the eggshell and get it out. And I got it, and then pour the rest of that in there, and I got that. I'm going to set this aside. And then what I like to do is I'm going to rinse my hands off, but I like to measure the vanilla into the eggs. Okay, so I did that. Now the vanilla is 1 teaspoon. So I'm doubling it, so I'm going to put 2 teaspoons in. Pour it in here. 1, 2. Okay. All right. You see me looking behind? My granddaughter's behind me, so she's happy over there. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and mix the eggs with a fork. Don't have to mix them completely because it is going to be mixed in the mixer. All right, so what we have, I'm going to go ahead and change the angle of the camera so you can see me adding stuff into the mixing bowl. As I have butter, white sugar, brown sugar, and that's what I have so far. So first I'm going to mix this up thoroughly. Okay. There we go. I'm going to mix this up thoroughly. Okay, sorry for how loud it is. Now I'm going to just do a peek in here so we can see where we're at on this. This is where we're at here. And it needs to be mixed up for sure. It's not totally mixed up, so it's not sticking. That's a good thing. I just make sure it's not sticking to the bottom. So, okay. So now we're going to go ahead and put my mixer back together. I'm going to do this. And we're going to mix for just a little bit longer before we add the next ingredients. Okay, ingredients at this point, but I want to let you see how it's looking. So that is butter, sugar, white sugar, and brown sugar. So it's thoroughly mixed. You're wondering why I'm struggling over here. I usually do not have my mixer in this position, but in order to film, I have to have it like this. Putting in my eggs and vanilla. I'm just going to pour that in here. Mix this up. Okay. So now it's definitely time to scrape the sides again. I'm going to scrape the sides down so that scraping the sides down so it doesn't stick, and then I will mix some more. Okay, so now the next step is to move this like this so you can see what I'm doing. The next step is to add flour, and you just add flour a little bit at a time. So I'm just using one of the measuring cups I used, and I'm just going to add it a little bit at a time at a slower rate until I get it all in there. And now I'm going to increase the speed. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and make sure, again, that I scrape the sides just to make sure everything is well blended. Because I think the key to a good cookie, no matter if you're making chocolate chip or any other type of cookie or cake or whatever, is just really getting it blended well. So even if you're using a hand mixer, take that extra time to make sure that everything is very well blended. It's hard. You will get tired doing this by hand. You can do it by hand, but you will probably get worn out. Certain recipes it's not as crucial, but I think the dough, you can see, is so so thick that you get tired mixing it up by hand. Okay, I'm just gonna run this a little bit more. Okay. So, I'm gonna show you what it looks like. I'll kind of take this off. Actually, okay. So like this. Okay. So now it is time to add the chocolate chips. And I'm doubling the recipe, so I will need 2 bags of chocolate chips. All right. Now, whatever your favorite brand. So some people like to use semi-sweet chocolate chips. Some people like to use milk chocolate chips. I like, personally, dark chocolate chips. And whatever brand is your favorite brand, it really doesn't matter. So that's 1 bag would be for 1 batch. We're doing a double batch, so I'm gonna do 2 bags for a double batch. And then I'm gonna not go too fast with this because I don't want the chocolate chips to end up getting broken up. I just want to mix them up. So I'm gonna set it on, I have a setting stir. So I'm just gonna do that. Maybe a little bit beyond stir because I have a double batch. Not too fast. Okay, I'm gonna check it to see where we're at. It might be okay. I might also hand mix it just a tad. Rubber spatula, trying to go ahead and stir this to see if everything is well blended, and it appears that it is. So I usually, then I'm ready to put it on the cookie sheet. But my husband said, hey, can you do half of them without nuts? I mean, half of them with nuts, half of them without nuts. He wants the ones with the nuts. So what I'm going to do, to just give you an idea, is I'm going to take half of this batter and I'm going to put it into the other bowl. Okay. I'm going to use this and I'm just going to scoop it into here. I'm going to try to just guess on what's half. Just going to kind of guess on that. And alrighty, let's see. I'll just guess. That looks about half. I think we're at about half. Did I put too much? Maybe I got a little bit too much here. I'm going to go back with it. Okay, and alrighty. So now I'm going to get all the batter off of here and add some pecans. All right, let's see. I pre-measured out 1 cup of pecans. So I'm gonna go rinse off my hands just for a sec. Back on the mixer. And then I'm gonna put in a cup of pecans. It could be whatever type of nuts you like. But like, not everybody likes pecans in their chocolate chip cookies. So now I'm going to mix up the pecans with the chocolate chips. Again, I'm going to have to scrape the sides because it does tend to stick. And I want to make sure that the pecans get mixed up very well with the rest of the batter. Okay, now let's mix it again. Take this off of here. Okay, so I'm going to start with the plain chocolate chip cookies that just have chocolate chips. And I have two different ways I can do this. So I have one of these scoopers, which is nice. And if you dip it in, show you, I'm going to dip it in water. It makes it a little bit easier. And then I'm going to go ahead and put it on the cookie sheet. Move the camera back just a hair so you can see a little bit better there. All right, so I'm going to put it on the cookie sheet. And you definitely need room between them. And it's a good idea to try to make your cookies similar size so when they cook, they cook at the same rate. Because if you have one large cookie, it might take longer than the medium-sized cookies. So if you want to make large cookies, put them all on one tray. Say do it the same rate. So that's with the scooper. So we're still doing just the plain chocolate chips. I'm going to just set this aside. And then I'm going to show you, if you don't have one of those fancy scoopers, two like tablespoon size will work. And I dipped it in the water. And then if you want to make the bigger ones, you certainly can, because like I can make these a lot bigger. I'm going to do this tray. I think I'll do the cookies just a little bit bigger, just to show you can do them in a different size. But you don't want to do them, they're going to get bigger, so you don't want to put them too close together. And I do have a lot of cookie sheets, so I'm going to be able to do a lot and then put them all in the oven at the same time. So I'm just going to go back. So that's that method, and then you can do, if you have one of these scoopers. And I've never tried an ice cream scoop. I suppose that type that has the little part that moves in it. This one, I don't know if you can, yeah, you can see that part moving. That type of ice cream scoop might work too. I haven't actually tried it. This is actually for cookies. If one is not cooperating, you can make it cooperate. So this is more of a medium-sized cookie, but they'll get bigger. Hope everybody's having a good day today. The weather here is rainy and cloudy. Nice day to stay in and do an indoor activity. There's nothing like the smell of something baking in the oven that's sweet. You know, some people like to burn candles. I have some candles that smell like I'm baking something, but it's a lot more fun when I'm really baking something and I can actually eat it. And the family can eat it. The worst thing is when you burn one of those candles and somebody comes home and said, "Oh, did you bake something?" and you didn't. They're very disappointed at that point. Okay, so there's the plain ones. I say plain. They're chocolate chip cookies. And then I think I might have taken more batter and put the pecans. So I have to really pay attention when I pull these cookies out, which one's which. So, because I have room for two more here, so I'm just going to do the pecan ones for that. And I'm going to pop these in the oven, in the top oven. I have a double oven, so I can I can go ahead and get a lot of them baked very quickly. Actually, I'll put it in the lower oven, then I don't have to move the camera. That'll be good. So the first thing is I'm just gonna put them in the lower oven. To the other one, and I will continue to put the cookies on the cookie tray. In the meantime, I'm going to set a timer. It says 9 to 11 minutes, so I think I'm going to set a timer for about 10 minutes, and we will be back and see how it's coming along. So I'm just going to show you, I'm just going to take a peek in the oven so you can see they're starting to spread out and do their thing, but they're not done yet. So we wait. You don't want to open up your oven too much, because then you're going to let all the heat out of there. But I just wanted you to kind of get an idea, and we will go ahead and check back. There's the timer. Okay, so I set the timer for 10 minutes, and we're going to just take a peek. I don't think they're quite done yet. You know, once you're onto your second batch of cookies in the oven actually starts getting, you know, warmer and stuff, and so I think it actually it starts to cook faster. But right now we're looking at that's how we're looking so far. And so one of the things I'm going to do, kind of a trick, the bottom ones seem to be getting done before the top, so I'm going to do what I call the switcheroo. So I don't have a convection oven. I do have an AccuBake, it's called, and that's helpful. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the ones on the bottom and put them on the top, and vice versa. So they're not quite done yet, because you want them a nice brown. It's starting to smell really, really good though. So, I mean, we are definitely getting closer, and I'm going to do, I don't think the top ones are ready, because I got a top oven here too, and I don't think, those aren't ready for what I call the switcheroo. So I'm using the recipe that has been on a bag of chocolate chip cookies for years. So if you're like, I don't remember what it was or whatever, almost all bags of chocolate chips have this recipe. Some of them have a new recipe, but most of them have this recipe. So if you didn't catch it the first time, you can watch the video again, which would be great, or you can look on your chocolate chip bag, and usually this recipe, like I said, it's been around for years. My first experience making homemade chocolate chip cookies was a class I took when before I actually went into middle school. I don't even know how old I was, but my dad decided, I will send you for a cooking class while you're taking this other summer school class, because I needed a little bit of help with something else. So I think the bribe was, I'll send you to baking class. And the first time I ever had the homemade chocolate chip cookies was in baking class. My mom would make other types of cookies, but the homemade chocolate chip cookies, I believe the first time was in baking class and having them warm, and that was really, really good. I liked baking class because you got to sample everything and take some home, so it was a lot of fun. All right, we will check on those cookies in just a bit. Okay, I think we are ready to pull the first batch out of the oven. Okay, let me grab these, and then I'm going to go ahead and move the camera so you guys can see at home better what we have going, so you know what they look like when they're done. While I'm doing this, I'm just going to wait a second. I'm going to throw the other, I have 2 more cookie sheets to put into the oven, so I'm going to do that right now. smelling delicious. This probably was not a good idea for me to do before dinner, but I think I'm having dessert tonight before dinner because they smell so good. Okay, I'm going to move the camera so that everybody can see how these look. Just going to grab this. And so this is how they're looking. So those are done. So these were the plain ones. And I think this one, and that one had the pecans in it because I still had room. I think I ended up with more with the nuts than I did with the other ones, with the plain chocolate chips. So in just a little bit, I'm going to taste test. So what we have to do is we have to wait till they cool off enough that you can put them onto a dry rack. So you don't, I like to eat the cookies warm, but you don't want to go too warm because they'll just fall apart. So maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I'll see how long it takes to cool down. But when I start pulling them off, I will show you again so you can get an idea how to do that. Now, because I have stainless steel cookie sheets, instead of using a plastic spatula, I could actually use a metal one, which is good. But if you have the non-stick and you don't want to scratch off the non-stick, you're going to want to use a really good plastic spatula. So just in a few minutes I will pull these and you guys can see that, and I will taste a plain one and I'll taste a pecan one, and I don't know if I'm going to be hungry for dinner because maybe I'll eat more. Not sure. I'll take them off the cookie sheet. I have a very sharp spatula and they're pretty warm, so I am putting them on a dry rack. Okay. They're still pretty warm. So, and you don't want to prematurely put them on the dry rack, or they're just going to fall apart when you try to even get them off the cookie tray. Cooling racks, not dry racks, so cooling racks. And if you don't have this many, it might take you a while. Like right now I'm going to even check the oven because I have more cookies in there. So I got to multitask. Okay, so that's those. It's time to taste the cookies. I got them all out of the oven. And sometimes if you're doing a multiple batch, you want to double check the oven, because I've done that before where I thought I had them all out of the oven because I was making so many cookies and I forgot that I had one in the oven, and then of course that burnt. So they're all out of the oven. And I think I'm going to taste the pecan one first. So I'm going to show you that it's still very, very, that's one with pecans in it. Still warm and moist. That was so good. I got stuff on my hands. Very delicious. And the pecans do not overpower the chocolate chips. So when you're doing a normal size batch, it's a whole bag of chocolate chips to like a cup of nuts, whatever type of nuts you like. So now I'm going to try the just plain chocolate chip cookie, which is my favorite. And this one is super moist too. Oh, see, it's still warm. That's why it's doing, they'll harden up and they won't do that. But I personally, I like warm out of the oven. That's my favorite type. Chocolate is still melting. Very good. It's absolutely delicious. Very, very good. You don't realize how much you miss it till you haven't had them in a while. And then you have one and you're like, oh, it's so good. But this is my weakness. So when I make them out of the, make them from scratch, I like to eat them warm. Once they've sat for a couple days, they're still delicious and everybody's eating them. I'll still eat them, but I can control myself better because they don't taste as good as warm out of the oven. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you'll go ahead and decide to make some chocolate chip cookies. And I'd recommend letting them cool down a little, but have them warm out of the oven. That's the best way. Have a great day, and thank you for watching.